All right, grade 12 SYSIC cohort, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a true masterclass on one of the most heavily tested and honestly frequently misunderstood concepts in your national income syllabus. We're talking about transfer payments. Now, as macroeconomists, we need you to put on your most analytical hats today. We're going to approach this with absolute precision. There's really no room for ambiguity here, because mastering this exact terminology and the economic logic behind it, that is exactly what's going to elevate your board exam answers from just acceptable to absolutely flawless. So let's get to work.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll define transfer payments. Then, we'll compare current versus capital transfers. After that, we're looking at factor incomes versus transfers. And finally, we'll wrap up with the National Income Accounting Rules.
Section 1. Defining transfer payments.
Okay, notice the precise syllabus terminology we're using here: unilateral and one-sided. In standard economics, a transaction is bilateral. It's a two-way street, right? You provide a good or service, and you get paid in return. But a transfer payment, that is strictly a one-way street. It's a unilateral receipt obtained absolutely without rendering any current productive services and without making any contribution to current output. So income is received, sure, but literally not a single good or service is produced for the economy in exchange for it during that period.
To really ground this theory, let's look at some classic examples straight from your source material. We're talking old age pensions, unemployment relief, welfare payments, gifts, and donations. But I want you to pay close attention to the last two on this list: fines and taxes. It's absolutely crucial to understand that transfers actually work in both directions. You can receive them as transfer incomes, like, say, getting a scholarship, but you can also pay them out of your own factor incomes to the government, right? Like paying taxes or a fine. Either way, no current productive service is being rendered.
Section 2. Current versus capital transfers. Now, we've got to distinguish between two totally distinct flows. First up, we have current transfers. These are paid out of the current income of the payers and add directly to the current income of the receivers. Think of a monthly welfare check or an old age pension. On the flip side, we have capital transfers, and these are entirely different beasts. They're paid out of the accumulated capital or wealth of the payer, and they add to the total capital or wealth of the receiver. Conceptually, if you want to maintain analytical clarity, you must separate your income-based transfers from your wealth-based transfers.
Actually, let me just jump in real quick to align this strictly with your ISC focus. For our macroeconomic flow analysis, and for calculating things like disposable income, we are exclusively concerned with current transfers. You can just mentally file capital transfers away for now. Current transfers are what really drive the engine of our syllabus.
So, here's a question to test your macroeconomic intuition. We know what transfer payments are, but why are they treated so differently than wages, interest, rent, or profits when we calculate the size of our economy? I really want you to think critically about how these unilateral transfers interact with the broader economy compared to traditional earning.
Section 3. Factor incomes versus transfers.
When we look at the core meaning behind these flows, factor incomes are earned as a bilateral reward for rendering actual factor services like labor, land, capital, or entrepreneurship. Transfer incomes, on the other hand, are completely unilateral and unearned, and you can clearly see this in their components. Factor incomes are your wages, rent, interest, and profits, whereas transfer incomes are your pensions, gifts, and taxes. But the real kicker here is that final metric, output. Factor incomes represent a direct contribution to the production process. Transfer incomes represent zero contribution to current output. The money is simply changing hands, but no new goods or services are actually being created.
And finally, Section 4. National Income Accounting Rules.
Okay, I present to you the golden rule. This is an absolute economic axiom for your exams. Transfer payments are completely excluded from national income calculations, period. And why is that? Because no productive services are rendered in the current period. Let's say the government taxes me 50 rupees and gives it to you as a pension. The nation hasn't produced 50 rupees more in goods or services. The money just moved from my pocket to yours. If we included that transfer in the national income, we'd be artificially inflating the national product through double counting. And we simply can't do that. We only count what is actually produced.
To crystallize this entire masterclass into one single undeniable principle of public finance, let's return to the exact syllabus phrasing. You really need to burn this quote into your memory. Transfer payments are payments received without any contribution to current output. If there's no contribution to output, It literally does not belong in the national income. It is beautifully simple and incredibly strict.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to bridge today's topic to your next study session. If we know for a fact that transfer payments don't grow our national output and they are totally excluded from national income, how do they fundamentally reshape a nation's disposable income? Think about it. That money is still arriving in people's bank accounts, right? It's giving them the power to consume or save. So how does this unilateral flow of funds alter the economic reality of the private sector? Keep that exact question in mind as you move into studying personal and national disposable income aggregates. Thanks for your focus today, SYSC cohort. Keep studying hard and keep analyzing.